Ladies and gentlemen, stop what you're doing right now and lock in because Washington, D.C. has just been hit with the biggest political earthquake since the day Donald J. Trump walked back into the Oval Office. Overnight, while most of America was sleeping, President Trump detonated a constitutional bombshell that's now ripping through every hallway of government. And the person at the epicenter, the one whose name is exploding across the internet right now, is none other than Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson. Because Trump didn't just rescind a few Biden orders. He didn't review them. He didn't audit them. No. He wiped out, terminated 92% of everything signed during Biden's presidency that was touched by that Autopen machine. Executive orders, pardons, directives, appointments gone, vaporized. And Trump didn't just stop there. He warned that if Joe Biden claims he personally authorized these Autopen signatures, perjury charges are now on the table. And that is why the Supreme Court is in absolute meltdown mode right now, because if Biden didn't personally sign the commission for Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson, and the evidence is pointing in a very, let's just say, uncomfortable direction right now, her lifetime seat on the highest court in the land may now be legally vulnerable. Think about that, folks. This is not a headline. This is not a speculation. This is the moment everything breaks open. Strap in, because what I'm about to share you changes everything that we thought we knew about the Biden presidency and the future of the Supreme Court. Hit the like button, folks. Subscribe. Ladies and gentlemen, when President Trump pressed posts on Truth Social late last night, Washington didn't just react, it detonated. Phones exploded, staffers were pulled out of bed, cabinet officials were calling each other in confusion, congressional aides were whispering, is this real? Did he actually just void everything? Guys, because this wasn't just a normal announcement, it wasn't a press conference. Trump dropped a nuclear level legal directive while most of Washington was still addressing Thanksgiving leftovers. And that timing wasn't an accident. No leaks, no slow walk, no time for Democrats to brace. Overnight, during a holiday lull when government power brokers were scattering across the country, Trump delivered his sharpest, most sweeping executive action yet. In one stroke, he declared that every Biden document touched by the Autopen machine was terminated. And this morning, Washington woke up to pure chaos. And so now we need to talk about the number that has every federal agency trembling today. 92%. According to internal reviews cited by the Trump administration, nearly all of Biden's executive level approvals, orders, directives, commissions, authorizations, they were generated by an Autopen, not personally signed, not reviewed in real time, mechanically replicated. And this right here, guys, this is why institutions are panicking. That 92% touches pretty much everything. Judicial appointments, agency rules, high-level pardons, budget directives, personnel approvals, even Supreme Court paperwork. Now, it means that the foundation of Biden's presidency wasn't paperwork, it was automation. Staffers initiating processes that legally require personal presidential action. And with Trump now officially terminating every one of those Autopen signed documents, question echoing through every federal hallway is this: if the Autopen signed it, does the action still legally exist? Now, that one statistic, 92%, is now the fuse that's burning toward the biggest legal showdown of the decade. Now, before we move on, let me just say something real quick, because right now a lot of folks are dealing with the stress that they don't even want to talk about. They're dealing with all sorts of levels of stress, and I get it. And honestly, your kids feel it too. Your kids want to help you, but they can't fight a broken Medicare plan for you. They can't navigate the chaos, the hidden rules, the fine print, but Chapter can. They can help you take care of the one thing that your loved ones cannot fix, your Medicare coverage. And one viewer told me, she said, my kids were relieved that I finally called. And that really hit me, because that's what this is about, taking the stress off your family. Now, most people are already dialing the phone number at the bottom of your screen, 909-563-8279, or they're visiting askchapter.org/Ron today. And speaking of real experiences, Steve Matthews, he said Chapter actually saved him $75 a month. Now, Steve, I just want to thank you so much for sharing that. Number one, it's really stories like yours that show people what's possible when they stop carrying the burden alone. So now let's get to the part that has every constitutional lawyer in America sweating through their shirt. What termination actually means under President Trump. This wasn't a repeal. This wasn't a rescission. Trump used the strongest possible executive language available of no further force or effect. That is the legal equivalent of dropping a steel door on an entire era of government paperwork. When a president rescinds, the old document still exists. When he reverses, it still happened. But when he says terminated, it is treated as if the document never had legal authority in the first place. And that distinction right there, this is why teams of attorneys across America, the DOJ, White House, federal agencies, and courts, they're scrambling. Because if Biden's Autopen approvals were never valid, then anything built on top of them might collapse with them. And that right there, my friends, that is where the panic truly begins. So let's talk about the fallout, shall we? Because this is where the room really starts spinning in Washington. Trump didn't just void symbolic paperwork, he directly targeted Biden's most consequential presidential actions. This was huge, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, we're talking pardons issued through the Autopen, gone. Regulatory directives that shaped agencies like the EPA, the DOJ, HHS, gone. Agency level authorizations that moved billions of dollars, gone. Federal worker approvals for senior positions, gone. And all of it wiped clean unless Biden can prove somehow, some way that the personal authorization existed. And so here's the bombshell that Trump dropped. If Biden claims that he personally approved these Autopen signatures and evidence suggests that he did not do that, Trump warned that perjury charges are now on the table. And so what you're seeing right now is an administration, Biden's former team, scrambling to defend every single action while knowing that the burden of proof just flipped back on them. We're only getting started here, guys. Oh, it gets a whole lot deeper than that. So now let's get into why Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson's name is suddenly everywhere, trending, exploding online, whispered inside federal offices at volumes barely above a breath. Because her appointment papers, her commission, are now under the microscope. And according to early internal reviews, there is strong reason to believe that those documents were Autopen signed, not personally signed by Joe Biden. Now, I don't know if you're paying attention here, folks, but this is not some small technical issue. The United States Constitution requires that Supreme Court commissions be personally signed by the President of the United States. No exceptions, no proxies, no mechanical reproductions. If those signatures were placed by staffers without Biden's explicit documented authorization, her appointment becomes legally vulnerable because the signature is the legal foundation for her lifetime seat. And this is why political commentators are calling it the biggest judicial legitimacy crisis since the mid-1800s. Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson isn't just a part of this story, she is ground zero. Now, inside the Supreme Court, the tension is off the charts. I mean, you can feel it through every leak, every off-record whisper, every reporter hovering outside the marble steps, because if a case reaches the court that questions the legality of Ketanji Brown Jackson's appointment, the first issue is this: would she be forced to recuse herself? Now, technically, justices do not rule on cases where they have a direct personal stake. But this situation is unprecedented. A Supreme Court justice potentially ruling on whether her own appointment is valid. Can anyone drop a conflict of interest if you guys believe that there would be at least a little bit of a conflict of interest there, right? And then, of course, behind closed doors, legal analysts believe that other justices are deeply uneasy. If her commission is deemed invalid, it would mean every ruling that she has participated in becomes open to legal challenge as well. You see how deep that this rabbit hole goes? Oh, and it goes deeper. This is not just a ripple, folks. This is a constitutional tidal wave, and conservatives are saying this could become the largest SCOTUS crisis in modern history. Now, let's go to the question that could decide this very entire battle. Did Joe Biden actually authorize any of these Autopen signatures? Well, under federal law, the president can delegate the mechanical act of signing, but only if he personally reviews, approves, and authorizes the action beforehand. That authorization must be provable. It must be documented, must be traceable. But here's the problem. Biden's own cognitive evaluation reports from early 2024 already raised serious doubts about his memory and awareness. Robert Hur's investigation stated plainly that Biden did not remember significant details of his own activities. He was mentally logged out for years, in other words. So now investigators are digging into internal White House logs, testimony from former staffers, approval workflows, digital audit trails, because if Biden lacked the capacity to track what his own staff was signing, then millions of pages of government action may have been carried out without a constitutionally competent president overseeing them to begin with. And that is a catastrophic miss for Biden's legal defense. So this is the moment where the story explodes into something that's far bigger than just one justice. If Biden did not personally authorize the Autopen signatures on federal judge commissions, then hundreds of judges, district circuit, even appellate judges may see their appointments legally challenged. And under the legal doctrine, fraud vitiates all, any appointment established through an invalid process collapses. Decisions made by those judges become vulnerable. Criminal convictions, regulatory rulings, constitutional filings, everything. So imagine hundreds of courtrooms suddenly thrown into uncertainty because their presiding judges were never legally commissioned. Appeals would surge through the roof. Federal dockets would choke. Defense attorneys across the country would scramble to reopen cases. This isn't just some paperwork issue. This is the definition of a constitutional crisis if I've ever seen one, and the entire legal community already knows it. So now we need to talk about the question nobody in Washington wants to say out loud. Could Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson's seat actually be vacated? Well, here's the legal roadmap if her commission is ruled invalid. Step 1, the DOJ issues its interpretation of whether Autopen commissions violate appointment law. Step 2, a lower federal court hears the first challenge, likely triggered by a defendant or a litigant questioning her ruling. Step 3, the decision, it gets appealed to the circuit court. Step 4, the case escalates to the United States Supreme Court, where the remaining justices, not including Ketanji due to recusal, must decide the legitimacy of her commission. Now, legal scholars are openly saying that this would be the most explosive judicial challenge in 150 years, comparable only to Reconstruction-era conflicts. If her commission is invalid, the court seat becomes vacant by operation of law. This is the political equivalent of a nuclear event. Now, we need to really address the shot across the bow, the moment that Trump added gasoline to an already burning constitutional inferno. In his Truth Social post, Trump didn't just void Biden's Autopen documents. He warned that if Biden claims he personally authorized any of them, and evidence shows he didn't, then perjury charges may follow. Now, this puts Biden in an impossible situation. If he denies involvement, he admits his presidency operated on unauthorized signatures. If he claims involvement, investigators will demand documentation, logs, testimony, and proof of personal involvement. And Biden's cognitive record makes that defense extremely fragile. For the DOJ, this creates a legal obligation. They must evaluate whether Biden had knowledge, intent, or participation in whether false statements were made regarding presidential authorization. This is the perjury trap Trump just laid with surgical precision, and it could open a legal battle unlike anything we've seen since Watergate. So what happens now? Well, buckle up, guys, because we're entering the legal storm of the decade. The Department of Justice is expected to issue a formal legal opinion clarifying how Biden's Autopen approvals will be treated under federal law. Biden's legal team, already on the defense, is preparing counter arguments, trying to frame Trump's move as unprecedented while quietly acknowledging internally that they lack documentation for many of these approvals. Meanwhile, the Trump administration is preparing emergency filings to federal courts seeking confirmation that the president does indeed have full constitutional authority to void improperly executed documents. So expect injunction requests, expect challenges from affected individuals, expect appellate courts fast-tracking cases. Every decision now matters. Every opinion now carries weight because the next steps will determine whether Biden's presidency is viewed as legally flawed or historically invalid, and Washington knows it. So now let's zoom out just for a second, because this isn't just about documents, judges, or even Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson. This is about the collapse of an entire governing structure. Look at it, guys. This is the unraveling of Biden's legacy in real time. Across the media landscape, even left-leaning networks are calling this the Autopen presidency crisis. International allies are watching with confusion. Global markets are studying the political fallout. Legal analysts everywhere are trying to understand just how a presidency so dependent on Autopen signatures stayed hidden for so long. And inside Washington, one message is spreading like wildfire. Everything Biden touched may now be revisited. Supreme Court legitimacy, federal appointments, pardons, regulations, agency power, presidential authority. Trump didn't just overturn some policies. He may have rewritten the historical record of Biden's presidency. And ladies and gentlemen, that means the next few weeks could reshape the 2025-2026 landscape more than any election ever could. Hit the like button, subscribe, and stand by for the latest developments. We'll see you next time. Hey, by the way, guys, if you're one of the real ones who really enjoy what we do here on the channel, you've got to check out the Inner Circle. This is where our true supporters get exclusive access to content that I just can't share here, completely commercial free. It's also the best way to keep this channel going strong. So if you want to be a part of something special, join us over there. Links in the description or in the pinned comment down below.